Um, Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us on this webinar. Is the second webinar of Toronto Agile Community Group, and we are really excited to have Ellen Gottesdiener as our presenter today. The theme that you have been invited is success with user stories, and I'm pretty sure that you have joined us because you are interested in this topic. Just a little bit about how we're going to run this session. We're going to do just a welcome from the Toronto Agile community team. I'm Ardita Karai. I've been helping to organize this webinar with Ellen. This webinar is on the series of webinars that we decided to start with the Toronto Agile community this year. We see that only open space and the conference probably are not enough, so we want to help our community more and to get more information in your hands. So webinar is one of the experiments that we are doing in the spirit of Agile, and we had one with J.B. Rensberger earlier in the year, and this is the second one with Ellen Gottesdiener. A little bit of introduction about Ellen. I will touch on this later, and we'll talk about that. Then Ellen, I'm going to pass the presentation to Ellen, and she is going to run with her slides. Then at the end, we're going to follow up with your slides and your questions, and you have a chance to put your questions on the question box on the side of the go-to, and we'll follow up on those. At the end, we're going to close up a little bit with some announcement from the Toronto Agile community. So without further ado, sorry, just a little bit of housekeeping. I'm doing also a little bit of moderation, so be patient with me. A little bit of housekeeping. I think this will be on mute to avoid any noise around you. We know that you probably are not all in quiet areas, so just to make it exciting and entertaining, the whole presentation for you, we're going to put you on mute. Post questions on the question box, as I mentioned. In case of technical issues, try to use either Firefox or Chrome. I believe these are the two browsers with the best results. If any other issue, try to either log on and log off again, or see what you can do around. And that would be it. A little bit about Ellen. Well, there is a lot to say about Ellen, and just that, oops, I don't know how I got there. I don't know how to put this on one slide. We tried to put a lot of pictures and a lot of links. So Ellen is a well-known international speaker and really rocking the area of product ownership and working with business analysts in an agile environment and bringing all these good methods and thought leadership into our world when it comes to business analysts, product owners, and working with products. So she's a facilitator, a trainer, and a coach, and you can read all of those there. She has the most recent book, Discover to Deliver, that she worked with Mary Gorman, but as well as other books, so the Requirements by Collaboration and the Software Requirements, Memory Jogger, books that I have seen all around in desks of business analysts on places that I've worked, and that has been a good sign that Ellen is well known out there, and she has helped a lot of people moving forward. If you want to follow her on Twitter, on LinkedIn, or the blogs, feel free to follow those links there. Without further ado, I'm going to pass the presentation to Ellen because I know everyone here is for her. Ellen, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I am.
All right.
I am just passing you the presentation. Everyone
Okay,
give us a minute until we do the switch.
I'm going to do the grand switcheroonie here, and
You're on
hopefully
business.
you see my first slide there, the opening
Yes.
slide?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you for those kind words. And everyone, good afternoon. It is afternoon here Eastern Time, or good evening, wherever you are. Welcome, and thanks for sharing your time with me today. I appreciate it. So what is my core message? Well, it's this. I know that everyone wants to be on a great team building great products. And if you're focused on user stories, I'll tell you that I think you're risking experience chaos in your discovery and delivery, because user stories are not the point. The stories are a means to an end. So to be successful with stories, the key that we've found over many years is to operate harmoniously as product partners, make value the focal point, and be sure to explore your stories holistically. So that's really the great way to get to great teams building great products. We at EBG have had the privilege of working with lots of different client organizations in a variety of industries. And so what I'm going to share with you today reflects the patterns of problems and solutions that we've experienced in this work, and I really hope that you'll find it practical and implementable and powerful. The other thing, Ardita, right, we're going to give away one of the books that Mary and I wrote, Discover to Deliver.
Correct.
In a raffle, yeah. We'll have, and anybody, you have to be here to win. So we'll do that at the end of our session. Okay, so here is, this mind map shows the agenda, and I'm going to sort of read it clockwise, if you will, sort of a 12 o'clock, where we're going to start talking about chaos and the chaos that we see related to user stories, and if you can relate to some of that. Set the context for user stories. Then we're going to talk about how to move from chaos to order, and then wrap up. And we'll have some time for Q&A, and we're also going to have a couple of polls. In fact, that's what I'd like to start with now, to see who's here, to see what your primary discipline is. So, Ardita, could you give us our first poll, please?
Yes. Launch.
Great. So the question is, what is your primary discipline? And you have some options there. And I assume everybody can see the options. And Ardita, I think you get to see the results as they come in, right?
Yeah, we are 70% of people have voted, and just giving a little bit more. We're 81 now. Don't be shy. Would be great if everyone votes. Yeah, they're coming.
This is really going to be very helpful to me, so I could calibrate some of my comments based on the disciplines that are here today.
Okay, I'm about to close the poll.
Okay.
We're 90%. I think, Ellen, you're going to need to see to share your screen again. So the results are 34% are business analysts, 20% are product management or product owner or similar. 19% we have development, testing, and engineering. 17% is project management, Scrum Master, Agile coaches, and 10% is other.
Other, okay, that's great. That's a really nice spread of people. I'm really pleased to hear that, because this work around stories really is collaborative work. And while the final decision making goes with those of what I think you said, about 20% of folks that are PM, meaning product managers, or POs, this really is a shared responsibility. So, Ardita, can you see my agenda slide? Just want to make sure I'm in the right place here.
We are back on your number 4 with the success with user stories and the rest.
Good, good. Okay, so this is where we're going to go next. So we're going to look at chaos, the first part, because the first part of the title is around user story chaos, and that sort of hairball, if you will, in the middle, or yarn ball, represents chaos, which is defined as a state of extreme confusion and disorder. Now, what I want to share with you are some examples of user story chaos that I've experienced, and I'm wondering if you can relate. So how about this? I don't get it. And some examples of people looking like that and saying that are where developers or engineers are not clear what the story is about and even why. Why are we going for that user story, and what is the, how does it fit with the business? Why are we doing it? And conversely, I've seen where product people because often the backlog, in using the Scrum Guide, anybody can put any items in the backlog, and product people are seeing dev members and engineers populating the backlog with stories they have no idea why they're there and they don't understand them. So this is one of the effects of chaos, this I don't get it. Now then we have teams buried in stories and more stories and more stories and more stories, and this plethora, this overabundance of stories causes a tremendous amount of waste. If you're a product person, this is sucking up a lot of your time trying to manage them, sort, prioritize them, and you probably are getting dragged into conversations about stories you don't even care about or you don't care about yet. So that's another thing we see. And then we have this. At the demo, you hear things like, that looks okay, but it's kind of slow, because the product person and the team never discussed things like performance and response time. Those little quality attributes that matter. Or you might hear, yeah, right, but you forgot about, some capability or some data that is not showing up. Or that's not legal. You're doing things in the stories that violates regulations, or in one case, in a scientific application, I heard a subject matter expert at the demo say, what you're showing here is not biologically possible. So this indicates that we're not having good conversations when we're finding out these kind of things at a demo, and that causes a lot of chaos in replanning and figuring out what we're going to do next. And then we have the good old, what I like to call, traveling stories. These are stories that move from iteration to iteration, from sprint to sprint, from release to release. And the reason why is usually because the team starts to develop the story inside of sprint. I'm using Scrum as our example of how you might be going about using Agile practices. And inside that sprint, they realize they don't quite know what to build, or they can't finish the story. The story hasn't been ready, and they get carried over from delivery cycle to delivery cycle. Unfortunately, this causes, of course, a lot of chaos, and it's a very common thing that we've seen. Then you have, surprise, we didn't talk about some of those non-functional requirements, quality attributes, usability, security, performance, or interfaces to other systems or devices if you're building a physical product. Or maybe we didn't make clear what platforms and technology environments we're working in. And this causes a lot of chaos in teams. One of the effects that I see on some teams, they reserve a sprint or an iteration called a hardening iteration. And that also could be called the hair on fire iteration, where a lot of those non-functional requirements are addressed at the very end. So teams aren't conversing about that, and that causes a lot of chaos. Another thing that we see is that teams are abandoning analysis altogether. And many Agile teams are trying to get away from those big, nasty, upfront requirements, BRDs, MRDs, PRDs, and go so extreme into going lean and so lightweight that their stories have no weight behind them. They've had no conversations about what the story is really about. And that, of course, can lead to things like really bad estimates and flatlining in velocity and laborious planning sessions. So I've talked about a lot of different ways that we've seen chaos around stories. So let's check in. Ardina, we have another poll. I want to see with the folks here, how effective are your user stories? Could you give us our next poll, please?
Yeah. Meanwhile, while I start the next poll, there is also one question. Do you want me to go with the question, or let's finish the poll first?
Let's do the poll, and
okay.
then we can take that question.
Yeah.
So what is your experience with user stories? And you have some options here. Maybe you're doing really well, or you have some struggles, or maybe you're in user story hell, or you don't use user stories, or you're wondering, what are user stories?
Okay, just a little bit more. We're about 75%. Come on, we did better last time.
People are eating their sandwiches at lunchtime.
That's true. That's true. Okay. I will be closing the poll shortly.
Okay.
Close. Okay, last one. Okay, closing. So the number one response was 64%, was we experienced some struggles. 64%. The next following 16%, or 17 now, it is we don't use user stories.
Okay, good. All right, that's interesting. Maybe they're using folks are using one-liners, and we could talk about that perhaps if we have questions around that.
Yeah. So Ellen, by the way, it's your turn to take over the presentation.
Okay. Thank you.
The 8% is we are in user story hell. So these are the guys that are in the right place today. And there is a 6% we are doing really well, and there are 6% that are asking what are user stories.
Okay. So hell and well is the lower number, but most people, 64%, are having struggles, which is a very, very common thing.
Yeah.
So you're in the right place for that too. And that's an interesting number, that 64%, because that happens to be the same number the Standish group had come up with and talked about unnecessary requirements. So that number stands out in my mind. So I want to go into set context. Ardita, is that question related to what we just talked about with chaos before I continue?
It is a little bit about NFRs, so if you are going to talk about NFRs later, we can take it later.
I am, non-functional requirements.
Yes.
I am. So hold on to that question. I love the question about non-functional is one of my favorite topics. So let's hang on to that. So let me shift into talking about setting context for stories here. So all of you, I'm sure, are familiar with the canonical form of writing a user story. As a user, I need to take some action for some reason. Now, the intent behind stories, and they go back about 20 years now, was to have a shorthand reminder of requirements about something that needed to be delivered to meet user needs. So we're going back to Kent Beck talking about using telling stories. Then the story format that you see here, this template was created by Rachel Davies and some others in the UK in the early days of XP, Extreme Programming, and then popularized by Mike Cohn in his user story book. But the idea is about telling a story to someone, and you might jot down a phrase or a noun just to remind you, right? So the story card or note is just a reminder of a requirement that you want to discuss. And it is not a requirement. User stories are not requirements. They represent possible requirements. So they're also not black and white, even though you might write them with a pencil or pen on a card. So just having a bunch of stories in this format is not the point. We need to have good conversations. We need to have structured conversations about product needs. And great products really are delivered as a result of people continually collaborating to discover and deliver a valuable product. Yeah, so by discovery there on the left, work that we do to explore, evaluate, and confirm we have a shared understanding of the product before delivery. And by delivery, of course, I mean the work that we do to develop, test, and deploy the product. And we're going to use the feedback, as you see at the arrowhead at the top of the deliver, we're going to get feedback to validate and inform our next discovery cycle. So discover, deliver, discover, deliver. This really is the essence of Agile. Now, we do this discovery work and delivery work along different time horizons or views. The now view, the preview, and the big view. Now, I'm going to ask you to listen carefully because I want you to consider where do user stories fit in. So, the now view is about the near term or current or sprint or iteration. Or if you're using Kanban, it's your work in progress. Now, your mileage may vary. Most teams using sprints are doing 2-week sprints. So at the now view, we are talking about requirements. And I'm using the term requirements just like the name implies. They're must-haves for delivery. So these things need to be understood in sufficient detail for the development team to deliver them correctly and in that time cycle they have, say 2 months, right? So that's the now view. We're talking about requirements. At the preview, that time horizon would be basically your next release. And your mileage will vary. It might be a month, it might be 2 months, depends on your integration and testing platforms. In any case, at the preview, you're focused on needs. And here, these items don't need to be at nitty-gritty detail, right? Our conversations about them are going to be a little bit higher level. And when we're talking about the big view, those are long-term things that are wants that you have. That big view might be 6-month, 1-year, 2-year time horizon. One of our clients who has a very complex product that sits on top of energy generators is a 5-year time horizon. So your conversations at the big view are going to be very wide and very shallow. So the now view is requirements, the preview are needs, and the big view are wants. So where do these things called user stories fit in? Well, let's look at some of the names that we give these bits of product functionality at these different views and the plans associated with them. All right, so at the big view, you may call these chunks of work MVPs, minimum viable products, or epics, or processes, or features. Again, there may be a variation in your organization, but these are examples. At the preview, a minimum marketable feature, some folks still use cases, or a chunky story. And at the now view, where we have requirements, we need to have very thin slice, very precise requirements that are truly ready for that sprint, ready to be developed. So again, big view, those are needs, those are wants rather, the preview are needs, and the now view are requirements. From a planning point of view, we have a product roadmap, a release plan, and a sprint or an iteration plan. Now, I want to just remind you, those items, those things that I've listed there, MVPs, MMFs, and so forth, your language may vary slightly in organizations. We've seen all across the board use different terms for those chunks. The key is that you all know what you're talking about and perhaps have examples to show the level of granularity of the conversations you're going to have about these things. So, I've put user stories in context of this ongoing discovery and delivery and planning horizons. The idea is that you could have stories using this canonical format you see here, this templated format, really at any planning horizons, and some teams do. The point is they're going to be evolved and refined as you progressively do your planning, and very importantly for your product people out there and the team really, is that once you've assessed this item in your backlog to be valuable, Once you get down to the now view, when it really is a requirement, it has to be ready. It has to be actionable, testable, and really consumable by the development team. So that's a little bit of context. The thing is, many of us on our webinar today have experienced chaos. So how do we get out of chaos? Well, the way to do that is to go to order, and that's really the antithesis of chaos. So we do that by engendering harmony, focusing on value, and holistically understanding our story. So let's take each of these three in turn, beginning with harmony. So harmony is a state of compatibility in opinion and action. And in music and sound, you know, it's a very agreeable property. Harmony is a good thing. So to achieve harmony, we need to do these three things. We need to have people with multiple perspectives acting as partners, as product partners. We need to obtain multiple disciplines, and we need to really collaborate positively. So when we think about great Agile teams, the people on those teams, the communities think and act as product partners. And these partners hail, if you will, from three different communities, three realms: customer, business, and technology. So customers there at the top. Customers are users and choosers, right, who make decision-making, have decision-making authority about purchasing if you're a commercial product, or authorizing development and usage of your product. So users and choosers, and also there's advisors who can influence these people's choice and use. On the business partnership, we have sponsors, product owner, and people that advise them, and lots of subject matter experts. And we may have business partners in a B2B, business-to-business situation if your product is dealing with B2B. Domains. So, and on the technology side, we have the people who are designing and refining and building and testing and deploying and delivering and supporting the product, generally called the delivery team or the development team. Now, so we have three partners, but we've seen in some of our clients they've struggled because they've only focused on one or two of those partners. You know, maybe they focus on only users. I mean, it's good to focus on users. It's important to focus on users. The name user stories and the as a implies we're thinking about those direct end users. But sometimes they're going to shortchange themselves because they haven't engaged with the technology partners and thought about technology innovations. And we've seen this recently at one client. We've also seen situation, and maybe you have done that or seen that, where there's an overemphasis on one type of customer. An example of that, unhappily, was where one organization focused so well on users they forgot about the choosers. And they ended up having to ditch a year's worth of effort because they failed to consider the buyer's need, that chooser. So when you get any of these out of whack and you're not holistically looking at multiple perspectives, and our product person, you know, you have the tough job because you need to look at all three and make some tough choices among their competing needs, then we're going to really have chaos. When we act as partners, we say, hey, let's envision and deliver the product together. Let's enlighten each other. As in design thinking, one of the keys is to get holistically multiple perspectives. So this means we need to cross disciplines and scan across that partnership community to get the knowledge and skills of multiple disciplines. Obviously, you as a product person out there and business analysis, which overlaps a lot on with product ownership, sort of in the center, looking at all three perspectives. But then we also need the disciplines of customer experience, of the subject matter expertise that people have about the product and the domain. And then there over on the bottom left, the disciplines around the business that you see, and the disciplines over on the right around the technology partners. So this is really essential to get these, to get harmony is to look holistically at all of our partners and engage all of the partners holistically. Now, another thing that is obvious, I think, to many of us, but also delightful, is thinking about collaboration. And if you look at that word there, you notice the word labor in the middle of it. But if you've had the experience, and try to conjure this in your mind, of being on a really great team, you know, at work or in your volunteer work, in your religious group, whatever, it is not feeling too much like labor. I mean, we all worked hard, but there's a lot of joy in this. And I recall that experience, a work experience, working with a team on building a clinical trial application, software application, and we had that experience and we really worked hard, but we had a lot of fun, and there was a tremendous amount of trust, and all partners, business, customer, and technology, were engaged throughout. So even though the core is labor, the idea of collaboration is really key. And, you know, collaboration doesn't just happen. It really needs to be engineered into how we work. So it's a critical responsibility of you product people out there, product owners, product managers, to serve as the glue among this swath of partners that we have to make sure that that healthy collaboration works and engender harmony and avoid chaos. And we found that one of the best ways to do this is with well-run product discovery sessions and doing this at all planning horizons, big view, preview, now view. So let's check in, Ardita, let's do another poll and see about harmony and that people have with their backlog defining and refining. Could you bring up our poll?
Yeah, I'm getting the hang of this, so I had it all ready for you.
Awesome. So how harmonious are your backlog defining and refining collaborations? So
it's coming.
Take a look at this one. There's only 3 choices here, so this will be a simpler one. Very key for harmony.
So we're almost 50%. We need some more. A lot are coming up.
Okay.
Well, we broke the record. All the seats that were available are now full, so we should get quite a few responses from people that are on the call that made it to get on this webinar.
Great. That's great. I appreciate that.
So I'm about to close it. Last vote. Going 1. Going 3. Okay, I'm closing.
Okay.
We have a 44%. We get input from the partners, but
okay. Mm-hmm.
But sorry, I do not have the whole questionnaire, but not collaboratively.
Okay. So maybe 1 or 2. I think I put down on the question 1 or 2.
Yeah, no, that's the second one. The 40% is the second one where it says we tend to focus 1 or 2, not all 3.
Okay, and the first one was 44%. So we good engagement.
We get input from the partners, but not collaboratively.
Okay.
The third option. And then 16% was the first option that says 3 partners collaborate well.
Oh, okay. Oh, my heart is broken. Oh, well, we can do better, and I know we can do better. I hope some of these ideas will give you, and some of the references and resources later will help you toward that end, because this is really, really important. People first. It really does make a huge difference. So, Ardita, can you see my screen now?
Yes, you are back.
Okay, great. The collaboration screen. Okay. So we want to really emphasize how that hearing all 3 voices is so critical. So let's talk about the next topic in terms of moving to order. We just talked about harmony and having collaborating across all 3 partners. Now let's talk about value. Wow, this is such a key point. And what we're going to discuss is that value needs to be foundational. All product work needs to be aligned with value, and that the product person in the end needs to make balanced decisions. Okay. So you probably remember this visual from the beginning where I talked about chaos, where there's lots and lots and lots of stories, people swimming in stories, story hell, there's all kinds of names for this. And you may not need all of those stories. It's actually pretty wasteful. If you only focus on high-value stories and define and refine high-value stories, that's going to slim down your backlog. You'll have a much leaner backlog. It may be a lumpier backlog because you'll have chunky items in the backlog, but we really want to only have the stories in the backlog that we actually really need. So let's take an example. I'm going to use an example here from, it's based on a real application actually, and we're going to call this Concerts Online, and it's the premier destination where artists and fans connect. And artists promote their tour dates, artists connects with fans, and fans track artists and do meetups, okay? So we're going to take a little example here and be able to talk about stories and value using Concerts Online as an example. So let's say there's a new initiative, and somebody in one of the product areas in Concerts Online has this brilliant idea that they want to partner with restaurants who in turn want to connect with concert goers at nearby concerts. So we're going to do that by being able to give them some offers rather that will provide some revenue for us. Now let's talk about value. You have this new opportunity and we want to explore and potentially build that into the product. So let's think about, before jumping into a whole bunch of stories, what is value and to who is acquiring that value, because value is the foundation. So we start with the vision here that I just pulled up. The vision guides the long-term purpose of the product. So the foundation for our value is understanding what's the long-term purpose of the product, and we need to focus on that in and of it by itself. We could have a totally separate conversation and webinar on visioning and visioning exercises and how it fits with strategy and so forth. But let's just say, and I gave you that little example of a vision, that we understand the vision. Now, in this example, goals are going to be product outcomes or target results that you want to achieve. So the vision is amplified by the goal. Now you'll notice I have 3 columns here, and blue, business, orange, customer, purple, technology partners, right? The Concerts Online finance manager, their goal is to increase ad revenues through ads. The customer, the Concert Online member, wants to enhance their concert experience. That's what their goal is. And the lead tech architect wants to leverage the network that exists without any response time degradation. And that is their goal. So thinking about value now, those goals need to be quantified, and they're quantified by objectives. Objectives are measurable. Many of you know this from, PMI or Project Management 101, that objectives can be measured. Objectives are SMART, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, time-based, SMART. So in this example, right, if you can see here that the business partner, the finance manager, wants 5% revenue from ads coming from this restaurant. The members want to get discounts for must-see concerts, and we could count, how many times they got those discounts. And the architect wants to be able to support 200 concurrent users. Vision, goals, objectives. Now, this is only an example, so you should be thinking, wow, Ellen, there's more partners here. What about the marketing manager? They may have a goal for incremental revenue streams, and other partners that you could think about, the restaurant owner, for example. Yes, we do need to think about this. In this example, we're just going to slice and look at these single partners. And also remember that what you call these things like objectives, they could be called something different in your organization. So you may use KPIs, key performance indicators, or you may use OKRs, objective key results. Whatever you call them, it's important to remember to avoid chaos by clearly and transparently communicating what does value mean for you and for your partners, right? So any story that might align to that, to value that you may have in your backlog rather, must align to value. And the value that your product owner or product manager decides in the end, balancing all the competing voices, which value is necessary for the next planning horizon. So I will guarantee you, you will save yourself story hell by eliciting only stories related to the goals, vision goals, objectives, to what is value. This is crucial. It really is crucial to minimize, as we say, the art of work not done. So product people out there, this is your tough call, is first of all understanding these partners and collaborating with your internal and external partners, and including technology partners, to understand what is value. You have, that's you have that tough balancing act where you're balancing value, which is foundational, the cost, benefits, risk, strategies, dependencies. You know, this is the most difficult job there is in this work, I think, is that being the product leader, the product owner, product champion, product manager, whichever term you want to use. It's not so much the title, it's the responsibility, and that work is really, really hard. So here's my next polling question. It's about value. Ardita, could you pull that one up? How clear are you about value? Please select one of the options here.
The results are coming.
Okay, great.
I think we're going to have a very clear winner here.
Okay.
I don't want to say yet.
Can you all see the results? Because of course I can't see them, but can you see the results? Can audience folks see the results as you're doing this of the poll?
Not sure. I can see them though. We're 82%. I'm going to leave it open just for a little longer.
Okay. 82% of what, and what's the...
Of all the attendees. And we have a clear winner so far that is 63%, way out there. But I don't want to influence. I want to give a little bit more time to others. So the audience cannot see the results either. Well, that's probably okay. Okay.
All right, go for it.
I'm going to be closing now. Close. We have a clear winner, 63%, the second option. We talk about value, but mix up value and features.
Okay, wow. Well, that's very timely, because actually I was just working on this morning for our newsletter a technique to help you not do that, mixing up value and features. That is a really common problem. And we want to be really, really clear about value. So anyway, stay tuned for that newsletter piece. Yeah. But the other thing that I found so interesting about value is a couple of weeks ago we had our first Agile Product Open event here in Boston, a new event in the Boston area, and we used open space, and I proposed a topic around value, and I was amazed when we went around and talked about, you know, the why, what, how of value, the diversity of opinions and usage of value, and the conflicting views of value that people have been experiencing even in their own teams. And, you know, a number of the folks are actually product managers, product owners in the session. So to have to have order, from move to chaos to order, in addition to harmony, we absolutely have to have value be our anchor and be very clear and transparent about what value means. Can you see my screen, Ardita?
Not yet, not yet. While you share your screen with us, I was going to finish the second place is 17%. That value is clear, helps product owner and team collaborate. On the third place is 14%. We give lip service to it, but we aren't very clear. And the 6% is what is value.
Okay.
And just a reminder, 15 minutes left.
Okay, thank you. And I will define value, by the way. Value is clear return or equivalent in goods, services, or money for something exchanged. Fair return or equivalent in goods, services, or money for something exchanged. We just need to be very explicit about it. Okay, so our last topic, moving from chaos to order, is being holistic. Can you see my screen, Ardita?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So there's three things that we're going to focus on here. Understanding, yeah.
Yeah, it's slide 32, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, this is the mind map slide.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about holistic, and we're going to begin by talking about understanding the parts or the composition of a user story, using visualization to accelerate and deepen the product conversations and actually speed them up, and confirming our shared understanding of the story. So some Agile teams, of course, converse about stories using the cards story format as a placeholder, such as a user, I need to take some action so that I get some benefit. Like our Concerts Online member searching for a discount in order to enhance their concert experiences. And most people, if you look at this, most people are just looking at the user and the action. What we really need to do is get behind the scenes of the stories and have conversation holistically about the story, and yet at the same time to do it efficiently. And to do this efficiently and effectively, we need to consider all 7 product dimensions. And we'll use these dimensions to have structured conversations around that placeholder that story represents. And the 7 dimensions are as follows. The user dimension is the people, systems, and devices that interact with the product. And the product connects to those users through interfaces, so that's our interface dimension. The action dimension, of course, is the capabilities offered to users. The data dimension is the data and information your product retains. Control. The control dimension are really policies and rules and regulations that your product is enforcing. The environment dimension is the physical location where users are interacting with the product, plus technology platforms, hardware and software. And for those of you that have a physical product, it's the physical properties of the product. And then we have the quality attributes, which are properties that qualify the product's development and operation, really, things like security, usability, performance. So you mentioned before, Ardita, the NFR's non-functional requirements. Well, people say, okay, well, here's the 7 product dimensions. Ellen, where's the F word here? Well, here's the F word for you. Functional dimensions are the user, action, data, and control dimensions. And the non-functional are interface, environment, and quality attributes. And you'll notice that we use, and we've been doing this globally for some years, symbols and colors semantically. And that really helps the conversation. The other key thing is that we look at all 7 product dimensions. You may start the conversations by amplifying one over another, but you really need to look holistically behind the scenes in that story and explore within and across options that you have for that story for all 7 product dimensions. And then what we're going to do is assemble the high-value options. Those become stories. So we really want to look at a story with multicolored glasses, if you will. As a Concerts Online member, I need to search for concert-related discounts so I can enhance my experience. And, you know, this is saying on the back of the card here, but this could be just part of the conversation. It doesn't necessarily literally have to be on the back of the card. You also discuss rules that need to be enforced or written test cases or examples for them. You understand the interfaces that that are needed and the environment of use, and you understand the necessary quality attributes. Now, this is obviously a simplified example, but the point is that you covered and gotten a shared understanding of that story, and it really is essential for being able to slice it and prepare it at the now view level. So when we have conversations that include all 7 of these product dimensions, we're saving a lot of chaos. Things like, these are all true stories. A team that was using different browsers and different browser versions in different countries, a very quick conversation they could have had about the environment dimension that would have saved them weeks of rework because they had a different understanding in different locations of the environment. Or the team that had a key interface missing. They forgot, this was in a pharmaceutical environment, that there was an interface to a physical device that they had completely forgotten. Another team that actually built a whole product capability and never talked to the end user about their environment of use, where they would never use a mobile device for these capabilities because they were in a retail store and it would not look good for them to be looking down at their mobile device while playing the role that they were playing in the store, and they had never had that conversation or observing in the field. So they really missed out on the environment dimension. So those are all, you know, some simple examples. But, you know, the stories by themselves are not enough. We want to supplement, this is the third point, that we want to supplement the conversations with visuals. And this is an example of some of the visual tools or analysis models, and many of you analysts out there are familiar with some of these or all of these, in fact. The thing is that, you know, the user story is not enough. We obviously need to have good conversations. We need to converse across all 7 product dimensions, but the other thing is, let's like serve our brains here, because humans take in information, we people take in information 60,000 times faster visually than with text. So all of our conversation need to be relying on using visuals. It could be a prototype, or it could be, well, let me give you an example of using these 3 visuals: context diagram, business process diagram, or data model. If we just sketch out, and there's an example of a context diagram, so we can see the interfaces. We're talking about taking minutes of time and enhancing the conversation, or the flow of actions in a kind of a flow model or a process diagram, or in a data model, the structure of the data. So you want to do this in a very low fidelity way and build them collaboratively. So Ardita, can we check in on people on this one, how often people are using visuals in their conversations?
Certainly. And we have some questions coming, so maybe we need to leave some room at the end for those as well. Okay.
Our answers are
75%, a little more.
Are using them. Good.
No. 75% have responded so far. Yeah, I'm going to leave a little bit more time. About to close it now.
Okay.
Everyone on the call ready? I'm going to close it. Okay, close.
Okay.
Ellen, you can take the screen. The winner is 47% once in a while.
Okay.
Followed, which is interesting because it's followed shortly by 41%, just 6% less, by frequently.
Good. Okay, good.
and then 13% by never. So
Okay. So some room for improvement, and we've found that doing this in a very lightweight manner makes a huge difference. You want to save time, use visuals to help supplement your stories. Okay, the other thing that I want
do
to
you want to share
mention
your
is
screen?
that,
Do you want to share your
yep,
screen?
are you not seeing it?
Not yet.
Okay, sorry, I thought it was showing up. Here we go. Whoops. Let me try that again. Are you seeing it now?
Yes.
Okay, great. So the other thing that we want to do is confirm stories. So the conversation's not over until we have a shared understanding of those stories. So that's part of being holistic as well. So if you look at that story here that we have on the top, what we can do is explore scenarios, which are an instance of use, or use examples and aggregate them into scenarios. And that's a scenario with data values, real data values, which become tests, which are concrete and unambiguous acceptance criteria. So, you can have a scenario of the discount found, a discount not found. An example is, okay, I'm searching for an Aretha Franklin concert using a dining discount for Durham, North Carolina on, June 19th or something like that. And this is a really powerful way to also understand your stories, and you could go from bottom up to top down. In other words, you could start with real specific examples, pull them into scenarios, and then explore across the 7 product dimensions and get sliced stories from there. So let's just remember that the story is a placeholder. And if it's worthy, if it's valuable, we need to get the full story that incorporates exploring all 7 of the product dimensions that there are, supplementing conversations appropriately with visuals, and making sure that we have a shared understanding using these techniques, as you see here, scenarios, examples, and tests. And these are proven ways to avoid chaos and engender collaboration. So let's wrap up. You want to, of course, adapt the level of granularity of your conversations around your stories depending on your planning horizon. I think of the big view as like the boulders, and the preview as the rocks, and the now view as like the pebbles. So the granularity of the conversations will change. Also, the stories go through a life cycle. At the preview, you have something that may go into the backlog that you're conceiving of doing, and you're going to refine it, and it'll be planned for a release. At the now view, you're going to refine the story so it's ready for planning. When you go into a sprint or iteration, you may further refine it so it's ready for test and development. It gets accepted because you've verified that you've achieved the acceptance criteria, you demo it, you deploy it, and you validate that you've built the right product in the first place. So the point is not about writing stories. It's a byproduct. Stories are a byproduct of conversations. And being agile doesn't mean hurrying up and going fast. You're fast because you're agile. And that means not skimping on requirements, but focusing fiercely on the most valuable ones and discussing them explicitly, inclusively, and holistically. So we've talked about moving from chaos to harmony and making value your focus and exploring your stories holistically, and I hope that will give you some ideas on what to act on now to build great teams, building great products. And I want to thank you for your time and attention. Invite you to find out what your story might be that we can help you with, and we have lots of resources and articles on our website. And I think we're ready to take some questions and then do our raffle.
Yeah, we're going to be a little bit over, maybe 5 minutes, but that's okay. I'm going to pick a question. There are quite a few questions, but I'm going to pick one. Is it a good practice to have the business begin defining user stories for a backlog and then bring in technology for grooming once a sprint or release is determined for the particular user story?
So is it begin without involving the technology partners?
Yeah.
Basically? No, I don't think that's a good idea. I think what you want to have is you want to have a holistically representing the partners. So it may be a lead engineer or lead architect that's involved. I think that's really crucial. We really need to have a balance with the three partners.
Okay, I'm going to take another one. There are actually a couple of people that are asking, at what point in the process do you consider this value alignment exercise?
At what point in the process? Well, in the process of refining, well, let's put it this way, if value is not clear to you, regardless of what your discipline is on the team and on the product work, then do it now. So, as you're starting a new initiative, obviously doing the visioning work and the value work and, of course, launching the team and using a liftoff, that is all really crucial. If you're in flow and you're not clear on what value is, it's definitely time to pause and make it really clear. Times where it fits for reviewing value sort of in the rhythm and the cadence of something like Scrum would be as part of your planning, as part of your refining. So as a product person, you'd say, okay, let me review where we're at with value for this product and what's important. Here's something that happened in the market. Here's a product partner, a customer, user that we're valuing. You review that when you're moving into refining and planning, and let people ask questions about that, challenge that, clarify that. So you can use it around the refining and planning activities as well.
Okay. I believe this was a question that was asked before you showed the 7 dimensions on the card, but for you to clarify, where do acceptance criteria fit into this picture?
Oh, well, the acceptance criteria are the confirmation. So those are the scenarios or examples and tests that you're going to build. So that's essentially what your acceptance criteria are, unambiguous ways to test that you have a shared understanding that you're going to build the product properly.
Mm-hmm. And the last one, okay, sorry, did I interrupt you?
No, go ahead.
Okay. The last one is around the visuals, and I'm going to combine these two. It's going to be like, at what point are visuals produced, before user stories or in parallel, and where do we store them for reference?
Okay, so when you produce the visuals as part of refining or preparing for refining, and that's the proper term as opposed to grooming, by the way, and we do this work in discovery sessions, particularly at the preview, preparing for release planning, moving right into release planning from doing this. And you could be doing it right inside of a sprint, drawing a picture, a data model, for example, or parts of a data model or state diagram. But you're really doing it in parallel with your with building the 7 product dimensions. We have many photos of discovery workshops that as we're exploring the story or item or feature, whatever that anchor is in the backlog, across and within the 7 product dimensions, we're building the visual models at the same time. Storing them, that's a question of documentation's value. If it's going to be valuable for handover purposes, for example, if you don't have a co-located team or you have a distributed team or you have new people coming on and off the team as a way to quickly onboard people, then you would document it. Then you would beyond perhaps a photograph of the sketch. If the visual is useful for support documentation or product documentation, then you're going to retain it. This is an important conversation for the team. The visual may only be useful for work in progress, for shared understanding, and then you don't need it anymore. So each team needs to figure out what and how and if the visuals are going to be useful.
Okay. We don't have more time, so I'm sorry, we're going to have to close it here. Thank you, Ellen, so much. I'm going to take a little bit your screen right now, and I'm going to show mine.
Okay, we're going to do the drawing.
Let me know if you can see it. You can see my screen? Yes. Can you see my screen right now?
I can. I can.
Okay, okay. So just everyone, just a quick wrap up. Ellen, thank you again for all this wonderful information and moving us to a harmonious place where I'm sure a lot of people are struggling with that. So, and it was good to hear that some people actually are there and are doing some things right. I wanted to give you, to everyone that is still on the call, to give you a little bit of feedback. We're looking from you to hear feedback and suggestions for our future topics. Don't forget, submissions for our conference in November are open. Go to our website and you can see more about what's going on. Doc Norton is going to be our keynote speaker and we are looking forward to have him. There are different ways to stay in touch with us, so through our website, newsletter, or follow us on Twitter. And yes, let's do the raffle. What we had, we decided to look at people that joined early. I kept some in mind. Just give me a sec to see if you are still online. Gabriela. Yes, Gabriela Dinu. She's going to be the winner. Gabriela, just send an email to Toronto Agile community and we're going to send you Ellen's book. And that's a wrap.
Excellent.
Thank you, Ellen.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of the day. Bye.